Hello. How's it going?
Hello, good morning.
We may have a really short call today. Eric,
Hello, dude.
how are you doing today?
Somehow my auto mute, unmute got changed, so I'm doing great. I'm in Montana.
Oh, is this that camping trip? Oh, no, wait a minute. You already did that camping trip. Wait, is this the camping trip that you and I were talking about a while ago? But I thought you already did that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
No, I already did that. That was we went to backpacking and staircase in the Olympic National Park.
That's right.
But we are now near Yellowstone.
Cool.
We have a family cabin that we get a month of.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the temperature like over there?
They ruined it by putting a nice cell tower right across the lake. It's been getting to 80s. It's been really pleasant.
Yeah,
just
nice.
like low 80s, 81.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But it used to be a dead zone of cell coverage, and now I can do things like this.
I don't know if that's good or bad. You know, if you want to be out there in the middle of the wilderness, why would you want to be connected?
You guys. Yeah, a little bit of safety, but I'm pretty sure one of the cabins owned down a ways is owned by a Verizon executive.
Ah. All right, let's see who else we got. Here, John.
Good morning.
Hello. And Lucas.
Hello.
Hello. And yo, Tommy.
Yo.
Yo. Hey, Ginger.
Hey there. They changed the little recording meeting thing.
Oh, did they? I didn't notice.
It's instead of saying this meeting is being recorded, it says meeting recording in progress.
Clearly you spend a lot of time on Zoom to even notice that.
I do, unfortunately.
I think this is actually one of my only Zoom calls during the week. All my other ones are on WebEx.
Show off.
No. I'd much rather use Zoom.
Yeah,
I hate WebEx.
Yeah, we used WebEx at Oracle when I was there for a very long time, and it was troublesome.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I love to pick on them, but I will say they are getting better, but just slightly better. Every now and then they fix one tiny little thing, but then there are other things that just drive me nuts about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a good thing we're being recorded because I want them to know. Although I do tweet about them, and I complain about them through Twitter. And the thing that cracks me up is every time I tweet about them in a negative way, inevitably their service guys, they ping me back and say, "Oh, tell us what your problems are, what this, what's going on," and they ask me for all this information, and I basically stopped doing it because I did that the first couple of times, and I thought, hey, they actually want to try to fix these things, but then it's complete like helpless desk kind of a thing. Like, yeah, they'll take your information. They won't necessarily say it's a problem, or they'll give you the runaround. It's like, I'm not bothering me anymore. I'll just bitch about it and let it go. It's much more fun that way.
And the bitterness creeps in.
Exactly, it does. Yes. If I treat it like a game, then it's not so bad, right? But if I don't let it get to me too much and just say I'll explode for 5 minutes, vent, and then I'll move on, then it's okay.
It's better than me trying to. I tweet about Twitter because their scheduled tweets never work for me. I'm like, why do you have it if it doesn't ever work? And so I tweeted to Twitter about it, and they never responded. So at least you get some kind of response.
That is true. WebEx at least respond. So you can actually do a scheduled tweet? I didn't know that.
Well, you can, but I haven't been able to get it to work. You can schedule it, but it doesn't actually go. So it reminds me, I don't know if anybody's a Seinfeld fan on here, but there's a Seinfeld episode when Seinfeld went to get a car from a car
Yes.
rental service. And he said, the reservation issue, I know what a reservation is, sir. I don't think you do. So,
You know how to take the reservation, not hold the reservation.
right.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
a
I
great
remember that.
episode.
Hilarious. Have you seen the outtakes on that episode? I know we're way off topic, but have you seen the outtakes of that episode? There's an episode where they're at that counter at that exact scene, and Elaine just cannot stop laughing. It's
Yeah. That one and the one where her and George's father, they get in that fist fight at the, I don't know where they are.
the police
But the
station.
Yeah, the outtakes for that one is hilarious as well.
Yes.
So
Yes, and that we're showing our age here, but yes.
yes, but anyway, so Twitter is supposed to have a scheduled tweet option, which is great because I like to use it since I'm in the US if I can tweet earlier before I wake up for Europe and stuff, but it just never goes. And then I just get really frustrated. So I just get up early.
So now I got to ask, what is so important that you have to schedule a tweet at an exact time? Is it like some sort of product announcement kind of a thing?
Yeah, so if we have a particular blog post coming out that, you know, our readership, we have a greater readership in Europe earlier. And so I'd like to get the tweets and stuff out to them earlier. So, because, you know, if I waited till my work day, it's, you know, already 5 o'clock there or whatever. So
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 3 after. Let's change topics. Christoph, are you there?
Yeah, I'm finally back from vacation.
Hey, welcome back. And Mr. John. John, you there? I think you're on double mute there,
Hello.
John.
Yes,
There you go.
I am. Yeah. Sorry, I'm on 2 different computers, and when I switch from one to the other, it takes a little while.
Understood. Okay. And hey, Lance.
Hello.
Hello. All right. Let's see. We got 11 people. Somebody comes sneaking in there. Anyway, okay, let's skip it. All right. Let's see. Anything from community people want to bring up? That's not on the agenda. All right, moving forward. Let me just double check, but I'm pretty sure we have no SDK topics for this week. So we'll probably cancel the, yep, nothing. So go away. So if you guys have anything, add it for the end of the call, otherwise we'll cancel that call. For Discovery Interop, just a heads up for those of you who are planning on doing some coding there. I've been trying to think about how to get this thing moving again, because it feels a little bit like we're stalled. And what I'm hoping to do is next week, come back with a proposal for a much smaller scope in terms of what to do for interop, right? Maybe just focus on one of the APIs at first and get everybody to implement that, and then slowly start adding it. That way, at least we can feel like we're making some progress. Because as I said, it feels like we're stalled a little. So be prepared for the nagging to ramp up a little bit there. Okay. KubeCon, I don't think there's anything going on there. I don't see Timur on the call, and he hasn't talked to me. Okay. So there was an SDK request in the Slack channel. Hold on a minute here. Let me get to the Slack. Somebody was, where is it, SDK? So there was a ping from John Laswell in the Cloud Events SDK Slack channel saying that the PHP SDK is on track for going at 1.0. And he would love it if anybody who has PHP experience wants to take a look at what they're doing, make sure everything looks right. Don't know if anybody on the call here knows PHP, but if you do, please take a look at that if you get a chance. I think John would appreciate it. Otherwise, he may just push it out this Friday anyway. So anyway, all right. Moving forward, anything people want to talk about before we get to PRs and stuff? All right. Now this one is an easy fix. The reason I didn't just merge it is because I was hoping Mark would be on the call, but he wasn't, or someone from VMware. Apparently dispatchframework.io is a dead URL, and I did ping Mark yesterday. He actually said the project itself is archived. So he said either just remove the whole link or point to just the GitHub repo that exists. I thought might as well still point to it. Does anybody have any other opinion? Like maybe we should remove it?
If
Otherwise,
it's
we'll just-
archived, that I don't know. I suppose this is a list of contributors rather than, What's the context here?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Uh,
Let's back it up. So this is contributions. That's a kind of a weird title as opposed to list of people using it. I guess it's okay. It's from Alibaba. We have these folks. Yep. And then from VMware, I guess we still have Mark listed. I probably should add Scott. I guess people decide to put the main product that's using it. If it's been deprecated, I don't know, John, you're saying remove it?
Well, if it were a list of integration points, then that would be one thing. But no, I think it's acknowledging prior work rather than saying, hey, go try these things. So yeah, I think it's reasonable to keep.
Okay. Anybody else want to have an opinion? Okay. Any objection to just merging then?
I think it's a little bit odd just to have products in there to begin with, but maybe that's a separate conversation.
Yeah, that as John was talking about that, it did run through my mind. It does feel a little bit odd as opposed to just people. I'd rather treat it as a separate issue, but since I think we're going to have time anyway, let me ask, would people feel more comfortable if we stopped, if we opened up a different PR and just removed all these and focused just on people? And if people really want to include products, then they should list it on our cloudevents.io integration webpage.
I think that would feel better to me.
Okay.
And I need to submit a PR that adds me in the Google list.
That would be good too. Yeah. Okay, so tell you what, why don't we do this? We approve this one. Where's my cursor? Holy moly. Review, make it bold. Okay, and what I'll do is this. John, open PR to add himself to file. Doug, open PR to discuss removing products from file. And then we can have a discussion about whether that's good or bad, but at least you can force the issue. Okay. All right, cool. And thank you, John and Ryan for the comments. All right, next one. Okay, so last week's call, we decided to just remove the references. Pretty easy. Any complaints?
Looks good to me.
All right, no objection? All right, cool, thank you. What's wrong with Google today? All right, cool. Another easy one, just added a whole bunch of PDFs for all the presentations we've been doing recently, and they go into the share folder if you're interested in where they're living. Any objection to that? Okay. Okay, I may have to tweet about Google here. This is really starting to annoy me.
Does that PR also add links in the README?
There are links to which README? The main README?
No, in the share directory, there's a
Oh,
README that
is
lists
there?
the files and with links to them.
Oh, probably not. I will add that. Oh, good point. Thank you. I assume no one has any objection if I do that without going back for another review.
Go for it.
Yeah. Update README. Good catch there, John. Thank you.
I love the way I add no technical value, but lots of little bureaucratic value.
It's all good. All right, so down to this one. Eric, are you in a position to talk to this one?
Well, I don't know what I would say. I was hoping to basically gain some of the wisdom of the community.
Was
So
I
I
right
know-
in my comment saying I seem to remember in the presentation about discovery, but it may have been a presentation on one of the other specs that there was a, hey, this isn't cloud event specific. anywhere. It can be for all kinds of things. It may have been on the schema registry instead, but if it was discovery and it's not cloud event specific, then yeah.
So I don't know anything about.
I suppose I could add a little context. So
Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
I've been involved in a number of conversations surrounding kind of the concept of the data mesh. And so I've been coming across products that are designed to provide discovery, designed to provide a little more richness around that. And so I was just kind of, my ignorance is infinite. So is there perhaps an opportunity for us to kind of eliminate some work that we're doing and bring in something that's a little better? And that was the basis for asking.
Okay. Does anybody else have any insight into these in terms of overlap with what we're doing? Because I'll be honest with you, I only took a very quick look at this when Eric first mentioned this, and it didn't jump out at me as necessarily a one-to-one match, but I also could have been jaded. But I also don't know necessarily whether we should only look for a one-to-one match, right? Maybe either one of these is generic enough that it handles everything we're doing, and we shouldn't be so focused on just cloud events. I don't know. I mean, John, you're coming in there. I wasn't quite sure whether you're implying that it's a good or a bad thing.
I was saying that if our discovery API is not really cloud event specific, then it sounds like it's a direct competitor with Amundsen and Atlas, and we should ask ourselves whether we really need another one. If what we're doing is really cloud event specific, then that's probably more reason to keep doing it. And it always feels odd to me to have a cloud events meeting where we're talking about things that aren't really cloud event specific. That may just be me. Even if it's a case of, well, this thing needs to be done because no one's done it, and we need it for cloud events. If it's not cloud event specific, it should, I would have thought, probably be somewhere else, but it's a tidiness thing.
Well, so let's focus on discovery for a minute. These other products that are mentioned, or these other projects that are mentioned, are they, if they're just general purpose discovery metadata thingies, how easy is it for someone who's playing with cloud events, who wants to just do subscription type stuff? How easy is it for them to leverage those things? Oh, sorry, Ryan, your hand's up. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I remember when we sort of embarked on these things, we actually did treat them, we put them under the cloud events umbrella, but we did treat them as sort of separate, separate projects that started off with their own specs. And admittedly, I haven't been able to join for the last few months, but I remember that's how it started. So I guess it's a question of what do we think as cloud events proper versus, these sort of loosely related or orthogonal things that might be useful in the if you're using cloud events in the broader ecosystem, but maybe not part of the core spec itself.
Maybe I just want to comment. Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to move forward here on this one, because obviously you can go either way with this.
I think I would like information from folks who know more about what the discovery API is capable of. If anyone has the spare time, as we all have loads of spare time, I'm sure, to say, if I were to try to implement effectively the discovery API, but in Amundsen or Atlas or any other discovery-based system, would I effectively have feature parity, or would the features that we lose not be terribly important? And right, that sort of comparison. There's also the question of whether either of these products is actually lively and well adopted, etc. That affects things. If we were to say we're going to invent our own web protocol and a server for it, then obviously that would be no. But if there's one other project that actually does exactly what we're trying to do but has not done anything for 10 years, then even so, I'd say it's worth us doing it. So I think a certain amount of liveness and compatibility analysis would be really useful for deciding where to go.
Yep, I think those are great points. Eric, in the spirit of no good deed goes unpunished, would you have enough background in either of these or both of them to give some sort of comparison report back to the group? Obviously not today, but at a future meeting, to say, hey, Atlas, for example, lines up pretty darn well with what we're looking for, right? And basically give that analysis that John was talking about.
I worried this might happen, but my background is super weak, but I could definitely do some work to try and do an analysis of whether what we have expressed as our needs for the API are also things provided by those two systems. If anyone had anything else to kind of bring in as an alternative, that could also be a beneficial thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And I guess, for better or worse, you recently did go through the discovery spec with a fine-tooth comb, and so you're probably in one of the best positions to make that comparison, to be honest with you. So, okay, cool. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Okay. Anybody else want to comment? Okay. In that case, close off all those. So, John, where I apologize. Where do we leave off on this one? Was it just
we left on confusion as to whether we want minor versions and what counts as backward compatibility, which I suspect, unless anyone else has been doing a lot of deep thinking over the week and has something to say, I know I haven't, but we left homework of, could people look at the proposed clustering of specs and say, are these things that we would want to version sort of, are these separate, reasonable separate clusters of versions?
So basically this grouping right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll note there are some interesting things there in terms of, should discovery and the schema registry be tied together? Should the subscriptions API and SQL be tied together? I don't know enough about either of those to say.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm pretty sure if Slinky was still here, he'd probably want this to be separate, because I think he intended it to be a separate language, but then used by the subscription API. I mean, I think the grouping you have here, from my opinion, no one else is raising their hand, it makes sense to me, and that's the way I kind of always mentally group them together. Anybody else want to speak up? Okay. So let's say everybody's
work out what it means, and I think there are already statements, but I want to think about and document why. If we add a new protocol binding, what does that mean for the version of core, for example? Stuff like that. There's more work to do beyond just this.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, okay, great. We if we agree on this, which is a relatively easy thing, hopefully, to agree upon, what would be the next step here for you? Yeah, I do feel like we need to revisit that whole minor version thing. Obviously, that's a big thing. I don't know if today's the best day to do it, because like you said, I personally haven't had a lot of time to think about it, other than when it does pop in my head, I'm still stuck in that position of a minor version cannot add a must.
Right.
But
maybe if I wrote some more words, I tend to find, and others may find the exact opposite, but I tend to find if I've got some concrete words to agree with or disagree with or put some comment on, that's easier than just keeping track of verbal conversations.
Agreed.
So it sounds like the next action item is for me to go into more detail around what minor versioning could do for us, some hypothetical scenarios, because the one that we focused on so far is the one I mentioned before of adding an attribute with a particular type, and what would that mean in terms of consumers, producers of old and new versions, etc. But we probably want to think of other things that can happen. And if anyone has any, this is really important, if anyone has any ideas for things, the kind of change that we might want to make to the spec, the core spec in the future, please either add in that document or mail me, tweet at me, whatever, because I still feel like a bit of a noob in the cloud event space. So I may well have missed whole avenues of possible future expansion.
Yep, I think that's a great idea. And thank you for volunteering to do that. Okay, for specs, symbols. Okay, cool. Thank you, John. I like the idea of a very concrete thing. That's why I love PRs over issues. It's much easier to discuss PRs with concrete text. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
And I'll try to include some aspects of what might minor versions mean for APIs as well, and CE SQL and things.
Yep, perfect. Okay. Oops, not John. Okay. Right. Anybody else have any topic or concern, thing they want to bring up relative to this issue or this topic? Okay. In that case, we've reached the end of the agenda. I did talk to Ahmed. He still is excited about talking about the SQL expression language and presenting to the group. Unfortunately, he was on vacation and he's still playing catch up, so he didn't get a chance to prepare for today. But he did say he'd try to get it done for next week's call. So that'll be on tap for that. Are there any other topics, issues, PRs that I missed, or anything else people think we need to talk about?
There
Okay.
was that there was that one issue about handling JSON.
Yeah,
The
I
one
think-
that Klaus had an AI, is that the one?
Daniel has an AI
Oh,
to
Daniel.
write up, basically copy the example from the issue and put that into the JSON binding. And there was a related thing around defaulting to application/JSON as well.
Yep, you're right. That's this one, right? That action item.
Yeah. And I've got an action item to make the C# SDK work as well on that front, but that's slightly separate.
That was the issue, right, Lance?
I think so. It's 588.
Yep. 588 or 558? One of the two.
558. Yeah. So I looked into this just a couple of days ago to see what the JavaScript SDK is doing. And something that I wasn't clear on is, so if we reverse this example, what would the event look like, right? So if we get a binary event that looks like A, so we agreed that the incoming structured event that then needs to get converted to a binary event would look like B, right?
You're looking at this, right? The A's and B's.
Yes,
Right here.
yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, got it.
So we decided that it should look like B. But what if we get a binary event incoming that looks like A? What does that become? How does is it? Do you put quote marks around that string?
What do you mean by
Let's say an incoming event, a binary event, comes in and it looks like A. And instead of converting from structured to binary, we're converting from binary to structured.
Didn't
I
we just
suspect in the C# SDK it would go, hang on, that's not valid JSON.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It's not a valid one, is it?
I don't know. I mean,
Because this needs quotes, doesn't it? To be
does.
valid JSON.
In the same way that
so
if something-
the idea then would be that the SDK should throw an exception or indicate some sort of error and not accept this incoming event because there's no quotes around it, around that string.
I think if you had a strict mode, the answer would be yes. Whether you choose to be more lenient is up to you.
And it does end up being a bit weird because in theory, JSON format only applies to structured. Now in the C# SDK, our formatter concept applies to binary as well as structured format, which means that the JSON format, when deserializing binary events, knows to do things with JSON, whereas it wouldn't know to do things with XML. You can imagine an entirely parallel example of application or text/XML, which isn't valid XML. And in the .NET world, if you ask the JSON deserializer to do that, if it was text/XML, you would just get a string back and it wouldn't have tried to parse it as XML. So you could argue that's invalid when it's provided with JSON, it would go bang. I think that's just a slight oddity of the way that SDKs work and them not trying to do absolutely everything, but do useful things.
Not that I necessarily want to hold up this website as the authoritative source, but Lance, the fact that something like this says, sorry, no quotes is a syntax error, wouldn't that lean towards saying A is invalid?
It's definitely not valid JSON. The question is whether you deserialize it to a string and say, here's your JSON, and then when the user tries to parse it, they end up getting an exception, or whether you try to parse it in the SDK and that goes bang. I think that's likely to be I think it's reasonable for that to be an SDK decision.
Right, and I guess, so then let's say you received a binary event that looks like A, and it's this hypothetical, event conversion middleware thing. So it's going to convert that to a structured event. And I guess you're saying it's just up to the SDK to decide what to do here. Well, I guess if you can convert it to a structured event, it's going to be quotes around the string anyway.
Or I think it would be entirely reasonable for an event converter to convert that into a structured event with data_base64, because those are just bytes. We happen to know that they look like text, but they can definitely be represented in bytes. So data_base64 with the base64 representation of I'm just a string, I think would be valid. I think for it to just make it data I'm just a string, that implies that it knows it's meant to be text data, text or JSON. Yeah.
Are you sure you could do the base64 thing you talked about without a content encoding header or transfer encoding header?
Well, if it's a binary event, we've got the binary data, we've got the bytes. So we can definitely come up with the base64 encoding of it.
No. But my point is, I don't think you can interpret I'm just a string as base64 without some other header telling you it's base64.
No. I wasn't suggesting you could. I'm suggesting if you wanted to create a structured event representation of that binary event in A, then you encoding the bytes that we see as I'm just a string as base64 would be a valid representation.
Got it.
If the cloud event is, if you think of cloud event body as always being binary data and some stuff happens to do other things with it, then you can always just represent it as base64.
Right, but at that point, the reason that is allowed is because you're never actually interpreting it as JSON. You're just interpreting it as a bunch of bytes.
Right.
And I think, Lance, what you're possibly getting to is, as long as you don't interpret it as JSON, then there's nothing wrong with A. But the minute something tries to interpret it as JSON, then that thing, if it's being strict, should probably throw an error.
Right.
Yeah. I think it depends on how opaque the conversion wants to be.
Does that help, Lance? Or
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the JavaScript SDK has some some cruft in there that needs to be addressed around this kind of stuff. But yeah, that helps.
Okay.
While that may well be the case, I would urge avoiding trying to get to perfection, because I think, as was mentioned in this issue, it would be easier if we had a data_JSON property that knew things were JSON. But even with that, I think this is just an area where the SDKs are going to be a bit crafty in ways that hopefully don't actually impact customers, but we can do angels dancing on the head of a pin and take issues with SDKs forever. And I don't expect any SDK to ever get the perfect solution to this.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on this one? All right. Any other topics then for the call today? Okay. I'll just double check, but I'm pretty sure it's still blank. Yep, nothing new. All right. Last chance. Anything for this call or the SDK call that we're supposed to have? I think I got everybody on the agenda. Did I miss anybody? I don't think so. Nope, I think I got everybody. All right, cool. In that case, another short call. All right. Thank you all, and we'll talk again next week. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, folks.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.